Good morning, students. Today we'll be starting with a new chapter, the summer of the beautiful white horse. Now, the summer season we all know, the warm season, and over here we are talking about a horse. We know that a brown horse, it's a fawn horse, it's a very common horse. A black horse, it's a beauty. And similarly, if we see a pure white horse, so that is definitely a very beautiful horse. So that is the summer that we are talking about, is the summer, and it is of a very beautiful white horse. Let's see what the narrative is about. The story is about two poor Armenian boys who belong to a tribe whose hallmarks are trust and honesty. Now, we come to know that this story that we are going to read, it is about two poor Armenian boys. These boys, they belong to a tribe which was in Armenia. A tribe is a community whose hallmarks are trust and honesty. So the main qualities of this tribe was trust and honesty. Trusting people and telling the truth, that is honesty. Now, one day back there in the good old days when I was 9 and the world was full of every imaginable kind of magnificence. Now when you are a child, you start imagining the world to be very beautiful. You think about you have not faced the hardships of life. You are too young, and that too a 9-year-old, and then you have the imaginations. Sometimes you may have imagined, well, when I'll grow up, I'll have a house, I'll have a swimming pool, I'll have a beautiful garden, I'll be owner of this particular cars, and so on. So that's an age where you can think of the most glorious things in the world, and that is what the author, when he starts, the narrator, he becomes nostalgic, and he says that one day back there in the good old days when I was 9 and he was just 9 years old. So the whole story is in a flashback, and the world was full of every imaginable kind of magnificence. The gloriousness was everything that this 9-year-old child could imagine, and life was still a delightful and mysterious dream. And life, it was a delightful, and you do not know what it holds for you, so it was a mysterious dream. My cousin Murad. Now, talking about his cousin, whose name was Murad, who was considered crazy by everybody who knew him except me, came to my house at 4 in the morning. 4 in the morning is still very early. It's the sun has not risen, and it's still dark, and so his cousin Murad, who was considered to be crazy by everybody except for the narrator, he came to the narrator's house at 4 in the morning and woke me up, tapping on the window of my room. And tapping at the window of the narrator's room, he woke him up. Aram, he said. And we come to know now that the name of the narrator is Aram. I jumped out of bed and looked out of the window. And so, as he called out his name and he knew that his cousin had come, he immediately jumped out of bed and he looked out of the window. That why is he tapping? I couldn't believe what I saw. Now, what did he saw that he could not believe? It wasn't morning yet, as I told you, that 4 o'clock. It is not morning, but it was summer, and with daybreak, not many minutes around the corner of the world, it was light enough for me to know I wasn't dreaming. So since it was summer, it was not winter, and still it was time for the sun to rise, So he could see that it's somebody, and it was not that he was dreaming. And my cousin Murad was sitting on a beautiful white horse. And what did he see that he could not believe was that his cousin Murad, who was considered to be crazy, he was sitting on a beautiful white horse. I stuck my head out of the window and rubbed my eyes because he could not believe what he was seeing. So he took his head out of the window and he rubbed his eyes. Yes, he said in Armenian, it's a horse, you're not dreaming. Make it quick if you want to ride. And he said, well, you're right, you're not dreaming, it's a horse, so don't rub your eyes. And if you want to take a ride, hurry up and come along with me. I knew my cousin Murad enjoyed being alive more than anybody else who had ever fallen into the world by mistake. But this was more than even I could believe. And so the narrator, he knew that his cousin Murad, he enjoyed being alive, meaning he enjoyed everything in life. Anything in life he enjoyed more than anybody else. And he says, who had fallen into the world by mistake, calling Murad a person who had fallen into the world by mistake because he was crazy. But this was more than even I could believe. What he could not believe, that Murad was riding on a horse. In the first place, my earliest memories had been memories of horses, and my first longings had been longings to ride. Now, since they belong to a tribe, so in the tribe, horses and things related to chivalry, they were longings. People yearned for them. And so his earliest memories had been memories of horses, and my first longing had been longings to ride. This was the wonderful part. Now about the horses and longing to ride a horse. In the second place, we were poor. The first thing, that they had a longing to ride horses, and for the poor people it's a luxury, just like we have the luxurious cars. In the second place, we were poor, so for the poor people, owning a horse, out of the question. This was the part that wouldn't permit me to believe what I saw. And because they were poor, so this was something that did not allow him to see, to believe that Murad was on a beautiful white horse. We were poor. We had no money. Our whole tribe was poverty stricken. Now, not only them, but the entire tribe had no money and they were poverty stricken. Every branch of the Garoglanian family was living in the most amazing and comical poverty in the world. Now, the entire tribe, we come to know that the name of the tribe was Garoglanian, and the entire Garoglanian family, they were living in the most amazing and comical poverty in the world. Why amazing and comical? Because nobody could understand where we ever got money enough to keep us with food in our bellies. Not even the old men of the family, because they did not know from where the money was coming and how they were feeding themselves. So that was what was amazing and comical about their poverty. Most important of all, though we were famous for our honesty, we had been famous for our honesty like 11 centuries, even when we had been the wealthiest family in what we like to think was the world. So even when they were wealthy, this tribe, yet they were known more for their honesty than for their wealth. We were proud first, honest next, and after that we believed in right and wrong. First thing, the qualities that they had was that they were proud. They had pride in their tribe. Then the second thing, they were honest. And the third thing, that they believed in right and wrong. And that was the best thing of the Garoglanian tribe. So these are the traits of the Garoglanian tribe. None of us would take advantage of anybody in the world, let alone steal. Nobody would even take advantage of anybody. And stealing was something that was even beyond that. They could not even imagine anybody stealing. So these were the traits of the Garoglanian tribe to which these boys they belonged to. Consequently, even though I could see the horse so magnificent, even though I could smell it so lovely, even though I could hear it breathing so exciting, I couldn't believe the horse had anything to do with my cousin Murad, or with me, or with any of the other members of our family, asleep or awake, because I knew my cousin Murad couldn't have bought the horse, and if he couldn't have bought it, he must have stolen it, and I refused to believe he had stolen it. So now the fact remained that from where did Murad get the horse? It was such a beautiful horse, such a magnificent horse. It was smelling so lovely, and it was breathing so, it was so exciting, and he could not believe, because they were poor people, so he could not believe that Murad would have bought the horse. So if he had not bought the horse, then where did the horse come from? Had he stolen it? And stealing in their tribe, it was out of the question. So he refused to believe even in that. No members of the Garoglanian family could be a thief. I stared first at my cousin and then at the horse. There was a pious stillness and humor in each of them. Now both the horse and Murad, they were quiet, and there was stillness in them, and which on the one hand delighted me, on the other hand frightened me. Now the humor was, where did the horse come from? So, and the pious stillness, that it would not have been stolen. So that was there in both his cousin as well as in the horse, and that delighted him because the horse was there, and frightened him, that where did the horse come from? Murad, I said, where did you steal this horse? Leap out of the window, he said, if you want to ride. It was true then, he had stolen the horse. There was no question about it. He had come to invite me to ride or not, as I chose. Now he thought that, well, I am asking him that where had he stolen the horse from? And he said, leap out of the window if you want to ride. And now he believed that he had stolen the horse. And there was no question that he had not stolen the horse, and now since the horse was with him, so he had just come to invite me to ride or not, as I chose. Well, it seemed to me, stealing a horse for a ride was not the same thing as stealing something else, such as money. Now, when you are a child, you can, in your favor, you can make things as and how you want. Now, since he wanted to ride the horse, he started, making excuses that this horse is not stolen. And so he said, well, if you steal a horse just for a ride, then that is not stealing. And if you steal it to just sell it off because of money, that is called stealing. For all I knew, maybe it wasn't stealing at all. And then he said, well, because for a ride, the horse has been stolen. No, that is not called stealing. If you were crazy about horses the way my cousin and I were, it wasn't stealing. It would have become stealing until we offered to sell the horse, which of course I knew we would never do. And he said, well, if we would have sold the horse for money, that would be stealing, and just because you have stolen it for a ride, Murad had stolen it for a ride, so I could not call it stealing. Let me put on some clothes, I said. All right, he said, but hurry. I leaped into my clothes, and so proving himself that it's not a stolen thing, and just for a ride if he has stolen the horse, so it's not called stealing. And if it's for selling it and taking money by selling the horse, so that could be stealing. So he justified himself, and then he rushed up after changing his clothes. I jumped down to the yard from the window and leaped up onto the horse behind my cousin Murad. And finally he convinced himself that this horse, it's not stolen and I can ride the horse. That year we lived at the edge of town on Walnut Avenue. So it said that the address where they lived was Walnut Avenue. Behind our house was the country, vineyards, orchards, irrigation ditches, and country roads. And behind their houses, these were the you have fields, so they had vineyards and orchards and irrigation ditches and country roads. In less than 3 minutes, we were on Olive Avenue. So from Walnut Avenue, in 3 minutes they reached to Olive Avenue, and then the horse began to trot. Trot means to jump. The air was new and lovely to breathe, and the morning air in the summer, it was fresh, and since there was a lot of greenery in the orchards and the vineyards, so it was lovely to breathe. The feel of the horse running was wonderful, and since he craved for riding a horse, so the feel of the horse that was running, it was wonderful. My cousin Murad, who was considered one of the craziest members of our family, began to sing. I mean, he began to roar, and since he just adds a humor to it, that then after some time he began to sing, and he said he was not melodious, and so he began to roar. And then he says that every family has a crazy streak in it, meaning that every family has some natural qualities in it, and so somewhere, and my cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of the crazy streak in our tribe. So a person who was considered to be crazy in their tribe, Murad was considered to be a natural descendant of that person. Before him was our uncle Khusro, an enormous man, and he says he developed these qualities from one of the uncles, and his name was Uncle Khusro. And now we are talking about Uncle Khusro, his appearance. Uncle Khusro was an enormous man with a powerful head of black hair and the largest mustache in the San Joaquin Valley. So he had Uncle Khusro, he was an enormous man, a powerful head of black hair, and the largest mustache in the San Joaquin Valley. A man so furious in temper, so irritable, so impatient, that he stopped anyone from talking by roaring. It is no harm, pay no attention to it. So that was like the words that he used to use off and on, and that was pay no attention, it is no harm, pay no attention, and that is Uncle Khusro. That was all, no matter what anybody happened to be talking about. Once it was his own son. So once it was his own son, that is Uncle Khusro's sons, Arak, running 8 blocks to the barber's shop where his father was having his mustache trimmed. So Uncle Khusro's son Arak, he crossed 8 blocks to meet his father, who was at a barber's shop, and in the barber's shop he was getting his mustaches trimmed. And why did he go there? To tell him his house was on fire. Just to tell him that their house was on fire. This man Khusro sat up in the chair and roared, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." And imagine, house on fire, the boy has rushed to his father to tell him that their house was on fire, and the father is saying, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." That's really very humorous. The Baba said, but the boy says, your house is on fire. So Khusro wrote, enough, it is no harm, I say. So that was craziness. My cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of this man, that is Uncle Khusro, although Murad's father was Zorab, who was practical and nothing else. And Murad's father, he was a practical man. That's how it was in our tribe. A man could be the father of his son's flesh, but that did not mean that he was also the father of his spirit. Meaning, in appearance, you could inherit the qualities of your father or your mother, but in spirits, you can attain it from anywhere in the tribe. The distribution of the various kind of spirit of our tribe had been from the beginning capricious and vagrant, meaning prone to change.